Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and welcome to a long overdue reading wrap up slash book haul. Hi, it's been a minute. It has probably been like 2 months, I think, since I had the chance to sit down and film. Life just got crazy. You are probably sick of hearing that excuse from me, but it is what it is. And yeah, so I finally got the chance to sit down and film. I want to talk about the stuff that I've been reading for the last couple of months, not in super deep detail because that would be a very long video. Without any further ado, let's just jump right into it. I want to start with the book haul because I have gotten a few things sent to me from the publisher and from the authors. So let's start there. Okay, so the first books that I want to mention are because I am one of the Saga Press influencers. I get to choose from a certain catalog of books that they're putting out every single month. And so I think in May, question mark, they were sending out I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle. This is, I think it's kind of like a funny, quirky fantasy novel about a guy who is a dragon exterminator. Yeah, yeah. He's a dragon exterminator. He hates his job. And it sounds delightful. It sounds super, super cute. And I know that Daniel Green was talking about this a while back. There was some drama involved with the author and somebody attacking said author. I don't know much about it. You can go watch Daniel Green's video if you want to know more about it, but I don't really know anything about all of that tea. So this is I'm Afraid You Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle, and I'm looking forward personally to reading it because it sounds so cute. Next up is Road to Ruin by Hannah Lee. This is about I think a woman, yeah, a woman who is a mage bite courier, which is the most dangerous job in this entire world. She has to go across these wastelands and face numerous kinds of dangers to deliver the things that she's hired to courier. And I guess the most important job that she's had to date is she is trying to carry letters from a prince to a princess trying to escape her abusive family. And I don't know if she's already in love with both of them or reading the letters causes her to be in love with them, but it does sound like it's like a poly queer sci fi fantasy, and that sounds super interesting. Next is The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick, and this is I don't know if it's young adult, but it's fantasy. It is about this world that has been overtaken by something called the Shade, and the people of this village live in constant fear of the North Wind, the evil being that rules this area, I think, choosing one of their women to take as his bride. And the main girl in this, Ren, I believe her sister gets chosen, and I don't necessarily know if she does a Hunger Games I volunteer as tribute kind of a situation, or if she's trying to rescue her sister. I will find that out. I have started reading it and I am really intrigued by it so far. But yeah, it sounds so cool. The cover is absolutely stunning. I mean, look at this. Look how beautiful the foiling and everything for a paperback. Oh, and it's floppy. We love to see it. Okay, then we're going to move on to the books they sent me in June, the first of which is The Price of Redemption by Sean Carpenter. So, my understanding is that this is about a noblewoman who is escaping her homeland because a revolution is going on. She's worried about being murdered as part of the nobility for in the midst of this rebellion. And the ship that she uses to flee is actually overtaken by a different ship, and she kind of gets enfolded into the crew, has to take over as the mage of this new vessel. And now she has a captain and she's working for a living, which is crazy for a noble woman. And that's kind of what I got out of it. I believe that this is the debut author, and this is a fantasy novel that takes place during the Napoleonic Wars. So it sounds pretty cool. I can't wait to get started on it. I believe it came out on July 9th of this year. So go and check it out. The next book is by an author that I don't really think needs any introduction, and that's Chloe Gong, and it's Immortal Longings. Also, once again, stunning. Saga Press does some of the most beautiful covers. They are absolutely stunning. So this is a fantasy take on Antony and Cleopatra, in which I believe people in this world have the ability to jump between bodies, and there's some kind of competition or game that is going on, and a princess who has spent 5 years in hiding is finally emerging to participate in these games so that she can murder the king. Meanwhile, a prince is joining these games, I believe, so that he can afford to keep his fiancées in a coma, I guess. and he's trying to be able to afford to keep her like alive while she's in a coma. And these two meet while in the midst of this competition, and they start to fall in love, which is actually super awkward considering the fact that he clearly has a fiance, or at least a former love. I'm not really sure the specifics on their relationship status, her being in a coma and all. But they form an alliance, they start to fall in love, and they kind of have to deal with the fallout of all of that in the setting of a deadly competition. Okay, the next two, I am on the street teams for both of these authors. So the first one I'm going to talk about is A Cage of Crimson by K.F. Breene. This is part of her Deliciously Dark Fairy Tales series. The first book, they follow the same set of characters. This is technically able to be read as a standalone, following a different set of characters. The Deliciously Dark Fairy Tales follows a woman who is in like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and she gets kind of taken as hostage into a castle so that the Demon King can't find out. And the man in charge of that castle, the prince, gotta be a prince, right? The man in charge of that castle is a dick that is also a dragon shapeshifter. And this is like a world of shifters as well. And they have all been held under control by this demon king. So all of their like animals, they can't shift at all. They can't use any magic at all. And they are all under his sway. And so the first book, she is trying to keep her people alive because she's one of the only people that can create this elixir type potion situation that saves people from this disease that was cast on the entire countryside kingdom when the Demon King took control. So she starts to try and work with the prince of this castle to figure out how to save everybody from this disease. And it brings her to the attention of the Demon King eventually, and shenanigans ensue. It is so smutty. It is so spicy. It is weirdly, what's the word that I'm looking for? Modern if you take away all of the electricity and the trappings thereof. So picture like a fantasy setting, but there are people walking around the castle with sex toys. Do with that what you will. I had a great time reading it. I haven't gotten a chance to start this one, although it did already come out. It follows two side characters from those Deliciously Dark Fairy Tales series, and it brings in a couple of those side characters, a couple more side characters that is as well. And it's just a fun time. It's definitely laugh out loud hilarious in several scenes with humor that you wouldn't necessarily expect out of a fantasy romance, I don't think, or at least I didn't expect it. But it's a great time. I can't wait to read these, and I am looking forward to it. The last one is definitely an author that I've talked about several times before on my channel, and that is Evangeline Williams, who I am also on the street team for. This is the third book in her Trust and Tequila series. The first is I Almost Do, the second one is I Always Did, and then this third one is Say You Will. So the first two are Marriage of Convenience trope. This one, we'll get to that in a second. So the first two are Marriage of Convenience trope. In I Almost Do, a woman is married to her father's business partner because he needs to take care of her. And it's phenomenal. The second one is where one of the friends of the girl from the first book, she marries her friend's bodyguard in Vegas because she needs to be married for situations within the story. But circumstances happen that kind of like, first of all, their marriage was completely secret. Second of all, it continues to stay secret because the moment that they get married, very bad things occur. And he suddenly has to focus on his family instead of her. It's like single guardian romance. It is Marriage of Convenience romance. The first two are so good. And if you haven't read them, they are both on Kindle Unlimited. So this last book, Say You Will, follows Henry and Frankie, who are two side characters from the second. And I think this is my favorite one yet. So Henry is on the autism spectrum. He is very high functioning autistic. He is also a vigilante. His entire family are vigilantes that tackle things that law enforcement necessarily can't tackle. In addition to that, Frankie is a disabled character. She struggles with rheumatoid arthritis, and she also has, I think she was born with one leg slightly shorter than the other. And okay, these two have known each other most of their lives. They had crushes on each other from early on, even though they didn't like realize that. And this entire thing kicks off where Henry is told by his grandmother that he needs to find a wife, and only Frankie will do. She checks every single box that he has, and he starts to try and move mountains to make that happen. She, however, is just getting out from under the thumb of her heavily abusive parents and refuses to be thrown into another such situation. It is so good. The representation obviously is not something that I can speak towards, but I have heard very, very good things about the representation in this particular book. If you have not picked up this series, and all of them, while intertwined, are not like in a row. So like they are technically, you could read them alone if you wanted to. If you have not picked up the series, one, go do that. It's on Kindle Unlimited. Definitely go check it out. Evangeline Williams is phenomenal, but also definitely go check out this book because I'm pretty sure it's my favorite so far. It's so good. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of all of the books that I've read in the last couple of months since my last one of these wrap ups. I'm not even really going to talk about it. I'm going to pop the cover up. I'm going to say whether or not I enjoyed it and maybe like a blurb or something. And we're going to move on. I'm not even sure where I left off in my last one of these, so I might skip a couple in between. I'm not sure. Um, I read Battle Magic and The Will of the Empress, two more books in the Emelon series by Tamara Pierce. Loved them both. Battle Magic was heart wrenching. The Will of the Empress was also heart wrenching. I had read The Will of the Empress before. I hadn't read Battle Magic before, but they were both phenomenal, 5 stars. I read An Offer from a Gentleman by Julia Quinn, which is Benedict's book, I believe. Benedict and Sophie, top notch. I adore their story so much. I have such mixed feelings about the TV show. Honestly, I don't know if I'm going to keep like anticipating the seasons from the TV show. We'll see. I don't love some of the changes that they've made from the storylines, and it's not even like some of the main complaints that I've seen a lot of people give about it. Um, that's a story for another day. We'll see. An Offer from a Gentleman was great. Benedict and Sophie, such a good Cinderella story romance, and I'm probably going to keep rereading the entire Bridgerton series. Then I read Say You Will by Evangeline Williams, which I just talked to you guys about. 5 stars, amazing. Definitely go check it out. After that, I was in a historical romance mood after having watched season 3 of Bridgerton. So I reread all 4 of the books in the 9 Rules to Break When Romancing a Rake. That could be wrong. It's one of those series by Sarah McLean, and I read 4 of those. They're so good. They just give me such happy feels. And book 4 is definitely a surprise. If you haven't read any of them before, go check it out. Then I went on a slight KF Green kick, like I was talking about before. I read A Ruin of Roses, which is the first book in the Deliciously Dark Fairy Tale series, and I read the second book as well, which is escaping me at the moment, but I'll put the cover of it up as well. I enjoyed both of them. I will be continuing on in the series, especially I need to read A Cage of Crimson soon. But I liked them a lot. And then I also read Born in Fire by K.F. Breene on audio, which is a graphic audio, and it was really entertaining. If you like anything like, I don't know, female centric Dresden Files / Iron Druid Chronicles, it's kind of similar to that. She's a bounty hunter ish. She takes like jobs on the side that the official government can't handle. She doesn't have the paperwork for being official members of that team. So she takes jobs on the side from them and tries to pay her bills that way. But she kind of falls into some shit because of it. And so the graphic audio was so good. So I was really entertained by that, and I can't wait to move on in that series as well. Then I cannot even begin to describe to you the chokehold that Dungeon Crawler Carl and the entire series has had on me for the last 2.5 weeks. Dungeon Crawler Carl, I was sent an arc of it because it was indie published on KU. It is being re-released as a traditionally published book, and it's coming out towards the end of this year, I believe. But all of the books up through book 6, which is what's currently written, are still all available on Kindle Unlimited. The audiobooks are phenomenal. The narrator is so good. He plays every single character. You can't tell. He is so good at voices. It is actually unnerving how well he does everybody's voices. Dungeon Crawler Carl is for anybody that enjoys a lit RPG, that enjoys an animal companion, that enjoys humor in any of their books, but that tackle serious matters at the same time. I have been shoving this series down everybody's throat, whether or not I actually think they're going to like it. I've been shoving it down everybody's throat for 3 weeks. It's so good. Dungeons and Dragons meets The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I guess you could say, is the best way to describe this. Aliens have invaded the planet. They have built an 18-level dungeon on this planet. They have smushed every single building and car on this planet, and if you were inside one when that happened, you died. If you were not inside one, you have the opportunity to enter the dungeon, pick a class, pick a character at some point, and you have to live through 18 levels of the dungeon to be able to get out. Or there's some deals that they offer you somewhere in the middle. Carl enters wearing only boxers, pink Crocs, and a leather jacket because he had to jump out of his window to save his cat in the middle of a Seattle snowstorm. So the cat goes into the dungeon with him, and she becomes a full-fledged main character, and Princess Donut is a delight. I adore her. It's so good. I will probably be rereading these soon. I binge read all 6 books. The later books are like 700 pages in 2 weeks. I am waiting and waiting and waiting until the next book comes out. We're hoping October. We don't know. I'm so late to this game. This has a huge fan base, a huge following. There's a huge Dungeon Crawler Carl community. It's my first lit RPG that I've ever read, and it owns me. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to stop now. It owns me. Next is an arc that I received and finished and started reading instantaneously because it's Karen Rose, and I'm always going to read a Karen Rose book off the bat as soon as it gets sent. And I am fortunate enough to be on whatever list the publisher has that sends all of Karen Rose's books because she's one of my favorite romantic suspense authors. I have talked about her incessantly on my channel. I own all of her books. You can't see them, but they're up at the top. And as far as romantic suspense goes, nobody beats her, in my opinion. So I've been reading Karen Rose for many, many years, and she just released the 3rd book in her New Orleans series. So we follow several different characters throughout the New Orleans series, but this one in particular follows Finn, or Phineas. He is an army vet who has PTSD, and this has caused him to struggle a lot in holding jobs. But he finally has a service dog and is in therapy, and all of this is helping him immensely. And he's finally feeling ready to take a role in the private investigation firm that he's been the night security guard at for several years now. You also follow a woman named Cora, whose father died when she was 4 or 5 years old, but she didn't know that until recently. Her father's remains were actually discovered, and she was contacted to be informed of this. And out of nowhere, somebody is now trying to kill her since her father's remains have been discovered. And so they kind of get thrown into this entire situation where they're trying to protect her and figure out what happened and what happened 23 years ago when her father was murdered. And yeah, it was so good. I haven't had time to give it a rating yet, but it's going to be on the 4 or 5 range. I like this better than the San Francisco series. The San Francisco series is fine, but she's like trying a slow burn thing with that. So it's like 2 characters across multiple books. And I tend to prefer my romance novels having one and done high stakes situation and they're in love at the end and it's delightful, which is what the New Orleans series has been. Finn and Cora are precious and I love them. And Finn is just a little cinnamon roll who needs to be protected at all costs. And his dog, whose name is Soda Pop, is also precious and also needs to be protected at all costs. Last but not least, I read Play Along by Liz Tomford. I have been reading her Windy City series for a while. Kind of ironic because I now live in Chicago. So the first one was hockey romance, the second one was basketball, and then the third and the fourth now have both been baseball romances. Play Along just came out like last week, I think. I'll be attending a signing that Liz Tomford is having here in Chicago this upcoming weekend, and I'm so excited because I've been enjoying the series so much. So this follows Isaiah Rhodes, who is a shortstop for the Chicago team, and you also follow the athletic trainer for their team as well. They have kind of been having a flirty banter thing going back and forth ever since she started working there. But all of the guys on the team obviously have been completely off limits. But unfortunately, they have a wild night in Vegas and they end up getting married, and they need to figure out what to do with that because now, if she annuls the marriage, she can get fired because that was kind of the premise set there from the very beginning on day one that if she had any kind of casual relationship with anybody on the team, she was done. So they have to live in this fake marriage until she can figure out what to do with the rest of her life. Oh, fake marriage, marriage of convenience, sports romance. It's so good. It was so good. And it has a lot of characters from all of the previous books coming in, especially Kai and Miller, who are still my favorite characters from book 3, which was Single Dad Romance, and that was top notch as well. It's so good. Probably 5 stars. I blew through that book in a day, and it's probably like 400 or 500 pages. I could not put it down. Okay, this video is incessantly long already. I'm going to stop talking. That is everything that I've read since the last time I caught you up. And I'm going to wrap this up here. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Down in the description box, you're going to see links to my X, my Goodreads, and my Instagram in case you guys wanted to follow me on any of those. But that's it for me today, guys. So I'll talk to you on my next one. Bye.